Okay. Okay, we left off over here. There's 2 dots right before the Mishnah. The Mishnah tells us that one brings a get in Eretz Yisrael, one does not have to say B'fanei Nechtam, because you can easily locate witnesses to substantiate the document, to validate it, and also Lishma is not an issue. Correct? Everybody agrees. In Eretz Yisrael, one does not have to say B'fanei Nechtam. However, the Mishnah is what happens if Yeshel Avorim, if there are those who contest the validity of the document in Eretz Yisrael. So the Mishnah says Yiskayim B'chosamov. It should be validated with those who signed it. So Rashi says either the ones who signed themselves, you locate them, and they authenticate their own signatures, or you get others who recognize the signatures, and they testify that signatures are authentic, they're not forgeries. The mission says, Im Yeshel of Orim, if it are those who contest the validity of the document. Now, this is the Mishnah. Now, who's contesting it? 2 witnesses come and they claim it's a forgery? Or is it one person claiming it's a forgery? Irukamo, what's considered contesting the document? That we even pay attention to it. Ilema iruchad, one person comes to the court, he says, that signature is not the signature. It's not a valid signature. Therefore, the document's not valid. Everyone agrees. There's not even a question. Anything less than 2 people is not considered something even to be concerned about. As we say, if you have 2 people contesting it, we give it some value. We give it value. One has no value. I'll give you an example. The Mishnah Berurah cites all the negative commandments. One is a violation if you speak Lashon Hara. Right? How many lavim are there? 17. 17 mitzvahs lo saseh, 14 mitzvahs aseh. Mishnah Berurah says, at one moment you're not involved, but over a short period of time you can be in violation of 17 negative commandments, 14 mitzvahs aseh. One of the lo saseh, let's say a person truly sees a person doing something wrong, he comes to the bezdin, and he says to the bezdin, I saw someone eat not kosher meat. The halacha is the one who, although his intent is positive, so on forth, he's in violation of negative commandment. What's the negative commandment? The lav. It says, Lo yokom me'echod oven l'chol chatos. A single witness is not believed in any way to put the other person in a negative light. You have to have 2 witnesses. It's a negative commandment. And echod can only be m'chayiv mamon. If Reuven says, I lent Shimon money, and he brings a single witness who claims he witnessed the loan, he can obligate the person to swear. But outside of that a person actually transgressed, violated, it's a Torah violation, and it says the bezdin gives the man malchus. If a man comes to court and he testifies negatively about a certain person, he gets malchus for this. Okay? So, irud dechad, one person claims that the document, his contested document, it's a forgery. We didn't pay attention to the man. Correct. Correct. Unless he knows there's someone else who knows what he knows, he shouldn't show up in court. Should not show up.
Even like a case of murder.
See, if he comes to court and says, I'm concerned, so it's like telling anyone. Let's say I come to a person, by the way, so-and-so is dishonest. The person is not permitted to believe you, that he's dishonest. But he's permitted to believe it to the point to take it into consideration, to investigate it, to verify it himself. So here we're speaking about a single person he contests the validity of the document claiming it's a forgery. We don't pay attention. That's Eir Pochs Mishnayim. In court and that.
I stole something, or I did a transgression, and Aiden didn't see me, and I'm not in front of that. Do I get less of it than a Avera?
No, same sin. But if it's speaking of a situation where the court could intervene, do they have a right to intervene if there's no evidence? The answer, they can't. God knows you violated, so of course you're fully liable. Elo ir trey. What?
Isn't it better to go to that person and see you eating non-kosher meat instead of going to the best man?
Let's say you know for a fact it's going to fall on deaf ears. The man's not going to pay attention. He may even react to it. He may even react to you. So you don't say anything to the man.
We don't say anything.
No.
Fine,
El Iritre. So when it says if someone can test the validity of the document in Eretz Yisrael, of the document, we're speaking with two people. So now we have a phenomenal question. So it says if there should be any question of contesting the document, you substantiate with other witnesses. So if two witnesses saying it's what? It's a forgery. So that means that's trey, two witnesses. Another two witnesses say, no, these are authentic signatures. So what is that? That's trey, right? That's contradictory testimony. So, no, you don't throw it out.
You discount it.
The second two have no value.
Right.
So it remains a questionable document, whether it hasn't been validated. So how does the Mishnah say the get takes on the force of a get? When you substantiate it, but if the two saying that it's a forgery, it's a question. So how do you allow the woman to remarry with that document? There's no reason why they have to substantiate it. The first two come to court of substantiation. There's no reason for them to come. It says, the Mishnah says, if it's contested, you bring two. But if contested means you need minimally two to contest it, so when now you want to substantiate with two, it's trey. It's their word against the other's word. So it's a suffix.
But a shliach came and said,
He said, no, this is Eretz Yisrael, the Mishnah.
It
Says well, a person brings a get in Eretz Yisrael, he does not have on it. And if it's contested, you'll substantiate it. Now, who contested it? If it's two witnesses, so what does the hell bring another two witnesses? Trey?
Rabbi said that the get stands on its own.
On a Torah level. We're talking rabbinically.
So we're not dealing with rabbinics here, with these witnesses. Because in actual fact, the get is good.
Wait a second. Wait. It's good if no one is. If you have two witnesses coming and say, this document, get, any document, is a forgery. It's validated immediately. Torah says witnesses is hard evidence.
What if there's no
Wait. That's evidence. It's
You
possible.
brought the signatures
This is
on the
pre-witness. If no one would come, we have an Anand Sadi. We say with certainty, people don't forge documents. See, if you document witnesser, it's definitely not forged. But that's called Anand Sadi. That's a presumption. It's almost it's out of the ordinary that it should be forged. But if two witnesses testify against an Anand Sadi, two witnesses is what? It's hardcore evidence. It's clearly it's a forgery. You validate the document. So you know what's me? If two claim it's a forgery, you bring another two say it's not a forgery. So why do you believe the latter more than the first two? It's trey. It's a question. So that's the Morris question. So what does the Mishnah say? Yiskaim b'chosomov. It should be it should be validated with those who signed on it. It's trey. What's discussed? Now there's a case where you have trey and you have amigo. Now let's say a person has amigo. I'll give you an example. The Mishnah says that if a person occupies a piece of property and the original owner comes within 3 years and he contests his right to be there, claims he's a thief, he has to produce a deed. Correct? If he doesn't produce a deed, you remove him from the field. Because since usually a person keeps the deed minimally for 3 years, he's not careless, so therefore you remove him because the first person has a cheskes marikama. Cheskes mari, the presumption is the presumed status he originally owned it. Until it's proven he no longer owns it, he retakes the field. What happens after 3 years and can't prove that he made a protest, he protested, so therefore the man had a right not to be careful with his deed, so the occupier retains the field. That's called cheskes sholoshonim. That's chazoka. Okay, now, what happens? The Mishnah says in Ksubis, person comes within 3 years, he says, what do you do in my field? And the man does not have any proof that he's the original owner. Doesn't have proof. And the man says, I bought it. I bought the field from you. You gifted it to me. He says, where's the document? So the halacha is he has a migu. Believe me that you gifted it to me. I purchased it from you because if I would have wanted to say, I could have said, I don't know who you are. Which means with the original owner, he's admitting, it's true, it was yours, but you gifted it to me, you sold it to me. He has a migu. What's the migu? Believe me, I'm honest, because if I wanted to be dishonest, I could have said, I don't even know who you are. You have no claim whatsoever. You have no relevance to the property. Okay, that's the Mishnah. But the Mishnah, what happens now, he brings witnesses subsequently that he was the original owner, so then you remove him from the field. Of course, now you have a point, because they established the Cheskes Marikama. But he has a migu. He has a migu. That's exactly it. The migu, they only exists only until the witnesses come. Migu stands up against, well, where's your document? Right? Because the average person retains the document for 3 years. But since he has the migu, he could have said, if he wanted to be dishonest, he could have denied that he ever owned it. So that only is a response to where's your document. But once witnesses established that he was the original owner, the migu is not sufficient for that. Okay? But let's say now you have 2 other witnesses coming saying he was not the original owner. The man never owned it. That's a trey trey. When you have a trey trey, what's the status now of the, does it stand, doesn't stand?
Doesn't stand.
Does it? That's the question.
Migus will stand.
Wait. It's not simple. It's a machlok shona. It's an argument. It's an argument. Now, when you have 2 against 2, what is migu? Migu says that I'm an honest man. Of course, I could have. No, because I could. If I wanted to be dishonest, I could have said differently, and I would have said, "What do I have to make myself? What do I put myself in the state of question? Why don't you have the documents within 3 years, right?" But based on testimony of 2 witnesses, you don't belong there because they established the chazaka. So when you have a trey, does migu have any value whatsoever? So there's an argument. Now, what is testimony? Testimony is verification. If witnesses cannot verify something due to their testimony, it has no value. So in the state of trey, 2 against 2, basically they cancel each other out. The Torah gives credence to testimony and value if it could be valued. But in our situation, we have contradictory testimony, it can't be valued. So what do? We just totally dismiss them. So if you dismiss the witnesses, we go back to the original situation. The migu stands. Or do we say no? That when you have trey, the Torah says it's unclear. But migu can't be any better than witnesses. If you have 2 witnesses claiming one thing, and you have 100 witnesses on the other side of the equation, countering the 2, do we say 100 to 2? We don't say. We say trey kameya. The Torah says what's absolute fact? 2 witnesses. So if you have 1,000 witnesses versus the 2, it's the same thing. So it remains a suffix. So if it remains a suffix, the migu can't be any better than witnesses. So if you dismiss the witnesses, then migu stands, because that's a fact. But if you say the witnesses are still valued until it's verified who's saying the truth, so then the migu is no better than the witnesses.
If we're dealing with inside 3 years, and the original owner says, and the document is lost.
He claims it was lost.
There's no document. And the original owner says, it's mine. And the man who's occupying says, yes, it was yours, but you sold the new. Do you believe the first man because you have 2 people saying the same thing, essentially?
No, but because again, the basis why you believe the man is only because he's lending credence to what he said. So that's a level of verification. Chazaka, what is chazaka? Chazaka says, in a situation where something's in question, you follow presumed status. But what is the basis for the presumed status? It's the man himself claiming that there was a presumed status. So we have a logical concept which counters that. It's just logical. If the man's dishonest, what do you have to concur with him claiming that he was the original owner? That only tells you that he's definitely honest, because otherwise he would be dishonest. He denied the man had any relevance to the field. Right? That's the migu concept. Why not? If you have no testimony, there is no testimony. But fact, no, there's no presumed status. The tray is, there's a question whether he ever owned it. The others say he never owned it. What? They can't. So they can't rule. They can't rule based on testimony. Wait, they can't rule based on. But factually, if the man was dishonest, why did he have to say that he was the original owner? He could have said, "I never saw you before." That fact doesn't change. Because we have no right to. Because we have no right to take it away from the man. How do we have a right to take it away from the man? We don't even know if it ever belonged to this other person. This person is occupying, the other man has no relevance to it. See, it's different. There's a case in Bava Basra. You have a boat in the marina. Reuven says it's his boat. Shimon says it's his boat. Neither are actually occupying the boat. So we say, Kol Dolam Govar. Let the best man win. Because there, neither are in possession of the boat. Here, one person's occupying the field. If you're occupied, how do we have no right to remove you from the field? Because there's a question, the other man's claiming a claim. He has no basis for his claim.
The 3 years, is that a
Rabbinical.
So the fact that the man is living in the property, that is a chazaka in of itself, in the Oraisa?
He's living, no.
Why not?
Wait, if within 3 years you should have the document, and you don't have the document.
But that's revenge.
No. That's the Oraisa. Once the Chachamim say you have 3 years to protest, if you don't, that proves that you're not, then the 3 years is the equivalent of having a document. We once discussed this. This is like Tochidei Dibur. There's a question, if a person wants to retract within a certain time frame, he's permitted to retract. Shalom Alecha Rebbe Mori. Okay? Which is just moments. Beyond that, so there's a question in Tosas and Bava Kama, what exactly is the basis for that time frame? Is it a Doraisa, or the Chacham came up with that period of time? So Tosas has difficulty. How could be Drabana? We find that the effect of that, the ramifications of Doraisa. So how can you say Tochidei Dibur is Drabana? That they created that time period. So what I said was, what is the concept of Tochidei Dibur? Tochidei Dibur means the person, when he transacts something, he knows he has a right to retract up to a certain period of time. Every transaction has to have a Gemira's Das. You have to have intent. The person's intent is not to conclude it until that period of time passes. So, but the question is, who set that period of time? Once the Chacham said it, his intent is not till that period of time passes, till that time frame passes. Now it becomes a Doraisa. They only set the time period. But once it's set, now it becomes a Doraisa because that's the man's mindset. The same thing. Chazal said you have 3 years to protest. If you don't protest, now we could say with certainty it's not your field because why did you protest? So they only set the 3 year period because they say a person is careful with his evidence, with his proof, with his document for 3 years. Once he feels complacent and secure with the property, he becomes careless. So every person can be taken advantage of. Every occupier, because there was no office who would record the deed. So how do you protect the buyer? The man will wait so many years, he'll come afterwards, claim based on chazaka, it's his field. They say, you have 3 years to protest. You don't protest for 3 years, that's evidence, it's not your field, because why didn't you protest? We could say with certainty it's not yours. So they only set the 3 years. But once it's set, the silence is proof that actually you sold the field, it's no longer your field.
Now, for this 3 years, if the man who claims he was the prior owner is sitting and watching for 2.5 years, how would he not restrain himself if he saw someone else living in his property?
They say 3 years, a person could restrain himself up to 3 years.
I don't understand that, because if a man was, let's say the man was a traveler in those days, so they set the 3 years because a man might not know, give him a chance to come home, and if he sees it, then I understand it. But if a man is there, and he hasn't protested, we say something that a person, like when there's a fire in a house, a man is going to, on Shabbos, he can't restrain himself. They limit him to 18 garments, whatever.
Correct.
There's a
There are situations, as he's saying, that it's immediate. There are situations that the silence, if silence is silence, it's immediate. You don't have to wait 3 years. You don't have to wait 3 years.
It's hard to understand that.
I'm only discussing the concept, what the concept is. Not restraining yourself and not protesting is an indication. It's something which is nearly an impossibility to remain silent. Seeing somebody else exercising ownership rights where it's yours, one wouldn't be able to tolerate this. Okay, but the Gemara is asking a question now. How does the Mishnah say that if the validity of the garment is contested, you bring witnesses if anything less than 2 was not considered contesting the document? So if 2 say forgery, now you bring 2 say it's not a forgery, it's trey. So my chozet the sabchasani smochahani. Why do you rely on these? Rely on the original witnesses who actually created the question. The Gemara says el irid the baal. Which means the irid the baal. The baal, the husband himself comes. We said earlier, it's not a question. The document is definitely a valid document. Even the document comes from overseas. But you know, we're dealing with a woman. If the husband says he never gave the document, it's a forgery, it creates a question. It's called laz. Meaning it's slander, and the slander brings not good things. She becomes questionable, the children become mamzerim, people start talking. So to silence the protest of the husband, you bring 2 witnesses. A third party comes, we ignore him. We don't pay attention. But if the husband comes, what he says creates really problems. Because he's claiming the document's a forgery. Does it have value? It has no value. But we want to silence that. So how do you silence it? We're bringing 2 witnesses. That's how it's silenced.
That's the only fix. Otherwise, anyone else who has some sort of...
Nothing. We totally ignore it. Just ignore it.
See, look, there's, again, like the parallel to the house that we just discussed. If a man and a woman get divorced, and the man is silent about the validity of the gift, and then much later on, she gets involved in a new relationship. And when he sees the new relationship, that's what drives him nuts. Because she's moving on,
Correct.
and the man comes in and watches the process. Okay, then you might say, okay, we don't even give him any credence. Well, why didn't you come here 2 weeks
In this
after
area,
and say-
in this area, you never know. People, when it comes to things, people give value when it comes to gossip. She's an adulteress. We don't want to hear it. We have to immediately silence it, dispel it, and prove it's to be false, regardless of when it comes about. That's the way it is.
Why didn't he come before?
Kasha v'maisa. That, you know,
I mean,
doesn't make a difference. Irid the baal, we don't take a chance. It's irid the baal. When the husband comes and he questions the validity, he claims it's a forgery, we want to put it to rest forever, regardless.
What I'm saying is actually quite
I hear you.
common.
I know. I understand that.
It's a very common.
Doesn't make a difference. I know. But people talk, and they don't stop talking. So until it's actually disproven with beyond any doubt, it's a problem. I gave you the example. You know, Yitzchok. He looked exactly like his father. But yet, as they say, when you throw enough mud, as much as you clean up, it's not cleaned up totally. He looked exactly like his father. But the question is, but why didn't she conceive immediately? All the issues married to Avram. Why only after she spent the night with Avimelech? People have what to say. But it's clearly it's the son of Avram. You never know. There's so many variables. Never know. We don't want to hear about it. Many years ago, there was a story which you're bringing up this point. Moshe, husband didn't want to give a get. And Moshe, they came before Moshe Feinstein's at Tzaddik, and he convinced him to give the get. And he gave. About 6 months later, she's getting married, and she's sending out the invitations going out. The husband comes to Moshe and says, "You see, you convinced me to. She's already getting married." So Moshe says to the woman, to the husband, he says, "What, you're upset? She didn't send you an invitation to the wedding. What are you upset about? She has a right to come to move on with her life, because you're going nowhere in your life. That doesn't dispel the validity or cast any aspersion on the get. She has a right to go on with her life." Alan. Wait. I just want to say, Tosis has a phenomenal question. What happens if 2 witnesses come and say, 2 witnesses testify, 2 other witnesses come and testify that the 2 witnesses who testified were thieves, who got slaughtered? They disqualified the witnesses. So Tosis asked, but every trey, believe the second group. I say believe that our testimony is true, because if we wanted to disqualify the first one, we could have said the guy's lying.
Somebody's lying.
No, the first ones, they're thieves. They're not qualified. Not they're lying. They're not qualified to testify. Believe us that our testimony is correct versus their testimony, because if we wanted to disqualify them, we could have disqualified them easily by testifying they're thieves. That's Tosa's question in Ksubas. Right? They have a migu. So Tosa says, so what's migu? Migu is what? Is a verification. Could it be a better verification than the testimony itself? If your testimony versus the others doesn't stand up against the others, you want migu to stand up again to prove that your testimony is correct and their testimony is false.
Mm-hmm.
It's trey or trey. Migu can't be better than testimony.
Doesn't help.
Exactly. See, Tosas gives another answer, and that's what has to do with this question. Tosas gives another answer. Migu is only with dealing with a single individual. With two individuals, you never say migu, because who said both of them would have thought about the same thing? So the question is, but if migu cannot be better than testimony, what do you need in another answer? So it seems to be because when you have trey with trey, this testimony doesn't stand. So all you have left is migu. So believe it just based on migu. You following? If you say contradictory testimony remains in place, so migu can't be any better than Eidim. Mm-hmm. But if you say the witnesses are dismissed, and as if you have no testimony, migu stands. So you have a verification. So therefore, Tosa has to come up to another answer. Migu is only when we deal with a single individual, not when you're dealing with two people. Because who said two would think of what one person would have thought of? Mm-hmm. Okay. No, there it was verified. The document was authenticated, and then the so-called lender claims that it was a forgery. Mm-hmm. It's true it was a forgery, but believe me, that I had an original document. I only forged it because I knew I wouldn't be able to collect without it. So that's it's a machlokas. It's migu mokamedim. There's something else, because there he's admitting he did something illegal. He's admitting, he said, does that automatically undermine the validity of his point? Look, a man's a thief. It's clearly he did something illegal here. That weakens his migu, because factually, even when you want to prove you're honest, but you did something dishonest to show that you're honest. Because they're simultaneous. See, here, what migu means, if I want to be dishonest, I'm claiming I'm fully honest. I have a right. I lost my document. Losing a document is only carelessness, at worst. Here you went and you forged the document. Forging document tells me already there's a dishonesty we're dealing with. No. We're not saying migu stands where you're dishonest. No. No. Migu is always proving that I'm not dishonest. Because if I wouldn't want to be dishonest, I would have remained silent. No, believe me that I originally had a valid document, and because if I wanted to be dishonest, I wouldn't have said anything. But factually, did you forge this document? He's admitting he did something dishonest. The other case, he did nothing dishonest. He misplaced the document. Mm-hmm. He wasn't careful enough. There's no trade or trade. So in that case, there's no trade or trade. The borrower says it's a forgery. He goes, brings it. It's been validated. There's nothing more to talk about. Then he says, by the way, the truth is it is a forgery. But believe me, because you would have been silenced. But now that you're admitting it's a forgery. That admission causes us to question that the whole thing is contrived. That's the question. Because it's almost contradictory in the verification. You understand? There's no negative indication of anything. Okay, let's begin the next mission in just 2 minutes. Person brings a get from overseas, he's not able to say we had this before. Speaking about when he delivered the get, he was fully functional, and then when he was about to say he became a deaf mute. and he couldn't speak.
This is the Mishnah we're talking about?
That's the case, the first case of the Mishnah.
Yeah.
It was just cited before, but the Gemara is going to say it over. This Mishnah. Hamevi Ibdi to say Yamin Yochalam Fonech Fonin Echtam Ib Yeshel of the Edim. If we're able to locate witnesses, he's kind of Chosamov. The witnesses will substantiate, authenticate the signatures. Okay. Echod Giti Nosh Vechod Shikri Avodim Shavu Levolchov Mevi. Whether it's a writ of divorce, a writ of emancipation, when the get comes from overseas, the shliach has to say Fonech Fonin Echtam. This is one of the comparisons, the laws which are the same regarding the get, Isha, and the writ of emancipation, the get Shichur.
From Eretz Yisrael and to Eretz Yisrael.
Molochu maybe, there's a question.
You just said you don't have to.
No, one is in Eretz itself. From one part of Eretz to not. We had an argument in the Mishnah. Right? Because we're afraid if you say one direction, they're not going to do in the other direction. Howard, what's we're not finished yet. Okay.